Hey guys, Christoph here from the Card Boys. Just wanted to do a video on the upcoming alt arts that are coming out in OP07, 500 years in the future. With the set just around the corner coming out at the end of the month, I thought it might be fun to look at, what alt arts people will be chasing and, what cards to keep your eye out for. Now, I'm going to be basing this on a sort of a star system. So, 5 stars is, this card you need to get as soon as you can. And, 1 star being, you can get it cheap, but don't really bother. Not going to be really looking at price of cards just because it's really hard to gauge exactly how much these cards will cost. A card on release may be 200, but then go down to $50 once the market stabilizes in a couple of weeks. So this will be purely looking at sort of a playability, what will be played in the meta, rather than a cost-based or even artwork. Artwork will definitely take into consideration, but everyone has their biases towards that. So mostly it will be down to playability. Just wanted to say as well, if I give a card like say a 1-star or 2-star, I'm not saying that the card is bad or unplayable or anything like that. Though there are a few kind of alts this set, I'm mostly just looking at it from the perspective of meta. What will be played at all the tournaments or the regional events. What will probably be getting into top 16. So if I'm giving it a low rating, it's mostly just because we're probably not going to see it too often. Probably not going to be playing anything really competitive, and probably more likely than not you'll mostly just see it at your locals. So yeah, just wanted to say that. So low rating does not mean it's a bad card, just not going to be seen consistently. So let's get straight into it. Now with this set, you're going to be getting 31 alt arts. That's just regular 18 alts, 6 leader alts, 6 SP alts, as well as the 1 manga. So with this video, I thought we would start off with the SPs. So let's get straight into it. So for those who don't know, SP stands for short print. These cards were first released back in OP03 was the wanted cards, before then being renamed SP and Set 4. These cards are essentially ones from previous sets that were either popular amongst players, a fan favorite character, or were just played heavily in the meta that were re-released with new artwork. Now, with these cards, you are essentially guaranteed to get 2 per case. So in the case of OP07, you are guaranteed to get 2 out of 6 of them if you get a case. Because of this, it makes it a little bit harder to get certain cards that you need, especially if you need a play set of them. So these cards are probably going to be, especially the ones that people want, are going to be very sought after. So with that in mind, let's get straight into it. The first SP we're going to be looking at is Okiku. Now this is a rare that came out back in OP01. Its effect is Don ×1 when attacking. Once per turn, rest one of your opponent's characters that costs 5 or less. Now, out of the 6 SPs, I don't think this is going to particularly be the main one that's going to be chased. This card has got so many reprints in the last year, with it being a tournament card back in, I believe it was OP03, so it had a regular as well as a winner version. It got reprinted as a championship card and is actually getting reprinted in August as well as in the championship style, just without the stamp. The other thing as well is it's just not being played in OP07. It's just not really a card that you'll see. The main 2 green decks next set are definitely Bonnie and Uta, and just neither one of them play it. It's unfortunately just a card that's very low cost, so it means it can easily be removed by something like Lucci or Gecko, and its attack isn't particularly high, so Law can easily get rid of it as well. So I'm definitely going to be putting this as a low chase card. I'm going to be putting it at 2 out of 5. It would be a 1 if it was a regular alt, but as I said, with SPs being, basically hard to come by because you only get 2 a case, I'm just giving that an extra star, but if it was just a regular alt, I would give it 1 star. So, moving on. Next up, we have Doflamingo. This is also a rare from OP01. It's a blocker with the effect of on play, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and then put them on the top or bottom in any order. So essentially, you can stack your deck so you can make sure that the next card you get is what you need. Now, going to set 7, we are going to be seeing some more Boa decks, so Boa leaders, as well as Doflamingo, the leader himself, will also be coming back as we've got some new 7 Warlord support. In terms of how chase this card will be, I mean, Doflamingo as a character is a really good staple blue card. Doesn't matter if you're playing Boa or Dofi, you can play a Vankov, doesn't really matter. It's just a really good solid blocker, as well as just having a really good ability. Blue next set isn't seeing too much representation. We're mostly seeing Boas and mostly seeing Doflamingos. But the fact that it is such a staple blue card, I'm going to be giving this a 3 stars. Purely from the fact that, yeah, it's not going to be a completely chase card, but again, it's such a good staple blue card. I think it deserves at least your attention if you see it for a good price. Alright, so next up we have Ezo. Now, Ezo was a rare that was released back in OP03. It's a searcher that on play allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and add one Whitebeard type card other than Ezo to your hand. Now, Ezo is an interesting card here. If it was in Asia, I would definitely say this is not really a chase card, probably like maybe a 2 or 3 star, but in the West, we are playing a lot more Whitebeard. Like Whitebeard, people keep, I think people keep saying, it's dead, it's not anyone played, but it's actually doing really, really well lately. It's winning a lot of regionals. People are getting back into it again. And yeah, I think definitely this is going to be a card that people are going to be chasing after. I don't know how it's going to go into the OP07 meta, just because looking at Asia, there wasn't really a lot of results with Whitebeard. So it will be interesting. So I'm going to be giving this a 3.5 star, just because I do think people are going to be chasing this card, if not just for OP07, but for OP08 when Marco Leader comes out, and you're definitely going to need a searcher for that deck. So yeah, I give this 3.5 stars. Alright, so Isho was a card that was released back in OP03 as a super, so it already has an alt. And this card's effect is on ×1 your turn, all your opponent's characters get -3 to their cost. And on play, if your opponent has 6 or more cards in hand, trash 2 cards from its hand. Now, looking at OP07, this card is primarily played in Lucci and Gecko. However, it's not really played consistently in every single deck. From what I can see, especially in Lucci decks, there seems to be sort of like there's 2 spots that players seem to be filling up with their own personal choices. So that can be, this Isho, it could be the new Sabo secret that we'll get into in a sec, as well as the new Stussy that we'll get into a little bit later. There's not really a consistent card. I think players are just experimenting, especially in Asia, because obviously they lost things like Great Eruption and Sucker halfway through OP07, so players just kind of trying to experimenting and seeing what they wanted to play with. From what I've seen, the latest list, especially in OP07 for Lucci, are playing Isho, at least 2 of. But again, it's not really a consistency between every single Lucci deck that I am seeing, as well as every Gecko deck. So with that in mind, I'm going to give this a 3.5. Depending on how the meta goes, it's probably closer to a 3 than a 4 star. But again, I think a 3.5 is fair for how much I'm seeing it in the decks. Coming up next, we have Eustace Captain Kidd. This is a 5-cost blocker that came out back in OP05, so it already has an alt as well. Its effect is during your turn, when you minus a Don, you may get a Don active back from your Don deck. So essentially, whenever you -1, you get it straight back, essentially. This is going to be a 5-star chase card. Every lore player is going to be wanting this, especially those who are going to want to max rarity it. It's a very nice looking alt as well, so yeah, definitely is going to be a chase card. It's also a really good, just sort of generic sort of purple blocker card. Purple is known to minus most things, so having a card that allows you to get it back is really good. So yeah, I really think this is going to be a 5-star card, and I think everyone is going to be chasing it, not just lore players, and I'll be chasing it myself, so if you have any, please send it my way. And finally, for the SPs, we have Onami. This was a card that was released back in OP06. It has an alt as well. And its effect is, on play, select up to one of your leaders or characters and it gains banish for the turn. It also has the trigger effect of being able to KO one of your opponent's 5-cost or less characters. Now, looking over at Asia, Anel was heavily played over there, and Onami, from all the deck lists that I have seen, have been basically played at max 4. Now, Katakuri was seeing a little bit of play in Asia, but not as much. But as we were saying with the Whitebeard and Ezo, just because something happened in Asia doesn't mean we'll be doing the same here in the English release. So we could see a resurgence of Katakuri, which, if that's the case, this card will definitely be played. So because of that, as well as just how much representation Anel saw, I'm going to be putting this at a 5-star. Also, waifu tax, so can't think about that. But yeah, I think this is going to be a card like Kid that's going to be chased by a lot of people, including myself for my Anel deck. So please send them to me. One thing I just wanted to note as well was the SPs. The reason I kept saying which ones already had the alt art is essentially, besides the buggy from set 6, every SP already had an alt art, and it seems that the trend being, as soon as the new SP comes out, the previous alt art's price drops like crazy. We saw this in set 6 with the Rebecca and the 10-cost Big Mom. Their alt art price dropped like crazy, as the SP price went crazy through the roof. So I bring this up just because, if you don't really care that much for any of these new SP alt arts, just wait a little bit. The Nami SP, the Nami alt, the Kid alt, the Isho alt, the Doflamingo alt, those cards will drop in price as everyone's selling them so they can get the new SP ones. So just wanted to point that out. Moving on to the leaders of OP7, we have Dragon. Dragon is a red leader with the ability of activate main once per turn, give up to a total of 2 of your currently attached Don to one of your characters. So essentially how it works is, a lot of the Revolutionary Army characters works that if they have 7k, their abilities work, such as a Vankov where at 7k you can play a Revolutionary card from your hand, or even the new 8-cost dragon that allows you to get rush and also move more Don around. So it's just basically a Don manipulating leader. He's not terrible, but there's just better leaders that come out this set, and looking at what happened in Asia, he wasn't really particularly played too much. I'll probably give him a go, but I just don't think he's going to be a chase leader, so saying that, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. Next up, we have Bonnie. Now, this is a green leader. His ability is when your opponent attacks once per turn, you can rest 1 Don, rest up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters. This is a really good ability, and is also the reason why it was played so much in OP7. Just looking online, it wasn't like the most represented deck. Like, I think people thought it was going to be a mainstay deck, but it was definitely in the top 5. The ability is just really good. It's also a very generic ability, so a lot of green cards can just work with it. I definitely think people are going to be chasing after this leader, and I'm going to definitely give it a 5 stars, just because, again, the ability is really good, and yeah, it's definitely going to be a meta competitor. Coming up next, we have Boa Hancock. This is the blue leader of the set, and its effect is during your turn, once per turn, you may activate this when a character leaves play from one of your abilities. If you have 5 or less cards at hand, you draw 1. So basically, if you bounce something back to the hand or bounce something back to deck, you draw 1 for free. Now, Boa's getting a lot of cool 7 Warlord cards that play into her, but those cards as well can also play into Doflamingo. Looking over at Asia, she did see some representation, nothing as big as, say, a Nell or Lucci or Bonnie, but still a decent amount of representation. So I think she is going to be played. I don't know if she'll be topping events or anything like that, but her ability is very fun. A lot of the new blue support cards are also really fun as well. So, and just with waifu tax like Onami, I'm going to be putting this at a 4 out of 5. Just because I don't think she'll see main representation, but again, she's a fun leader, and I think people will be playing her. Next up, we have Foxy. This is a purple leader with the ability of, when attacking, Don -3. If you have 3 or more Foxy Pirate characters in play, choose up to one of your opponent's rested leaders or characters. The card you chose do not become active during their next refresh phase. So essentially, it's a Doflamingo, a 10-cost Doflamingo. But yeah, this is a bad leader. Like, if the cost was less and the Foxy Pirate cards were alright, I could see this being a little bit higher, but I'm going to put this at one star, just because the ability is just too high cost, really. So I'm not, unfortunately, Foxy, 1 star. Next up, we have Rob Lucci. This is a black leader. When attacking, you may trash the top 2 cards of your deck and give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 for this turn. Yeah, Lucci's just definitely one of the chase leaders for this set. Going into set 7, it's going to be one of the more represented decks. If we look at what happened in Asia after Sakazuki ban, it definitely picked up quite a bit. And what's happening with set 8 right now, it's getting even just as much representation, if not more. So yeah, I think a lot of people, including myself, will be chasing this leader just because its ability, being able to minus stuff constantly, just will make her very consistent. So I'm going to put this down as a 5-star leader to 100%. And finally, for leaders, we have Vegapunk. This is a yellow leader that cannot attack, and its ability is activate main once per turn, rest 1 Don, and you can place up to 1 card with a cost of 5 or less with the Egghead type from your hand face up on top of your life or into play. So essentially, it just allows you to spam out cards from your hand or build up your life. As you can see, it's a 2-life leader, so basically you're just trying to build up. You want to go first with this deck, definitely. Unfortunately, though, this leader's just bad. Like, the fact that it's at 2 life, but also the support it gets this set is not particularly great. If you look at set 8, we get definitely more, egghead type cards that can be used with the leader. But yeah, it feels like we got like half the support now and half the support later, rather than get like the main support now. So yeah, I'm going to put this leader at a 1 star. It's just, as it currently is, it's not particularly great. When we get more cards from set 8, it may improve, but as of right now, definitely I'm going to put it at 1 star. Moving on to the other alts of the set, we'll start off with Karina. Karina is a 3-cost blocker with the effect of, on play, -1 of your opponent's characters by 2,000 for the turn. Now, red isn't seeing too much play next set. You know, as we were saying, Whitebeard could see a resurgence, but I don't think Whitebeard would play this card. The only other leader that I could see play it would potentially be Law, just because obviously this card's ability works really well with Law's ability, but with Law, they're just better cards that you should be playing with that. You know, the deck list is pretty tight, so I don't really think you could fit this card in. You know, players may be chasing this for, you know, some other reasons, but in terms of actual meta play, I just don't think this card's going to see really much play at all. There's actually a better blocker that's coming out in the set that allows you to basically buff your character by 2000 for the battle, so I think that card is definitely going to be chased more than this one. So yeah, based on that, I'm going to just give this card a 1 out of 5. Next up, we have Monkey D Dragon. This is an 8-cost 9k rush character, whose its on-play effect being give your leader or one of your characters up to 2 of your rested Don. So essentially you're playing it for 8 and then using those 2 Don and putting it somewhere, either your leader or one of your revolutionary characters to get its effect. Now, the only other deck besides Dragon that I've seen played is actually the starter deck red-purple Monkey D Luffy. It's just a really good powerhouse card to have. But outside of that, I haven't really seen too many red decks play it. Because of this, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. I will be picking it up for Monkey D Luffy, but outside of the Monkey D Luffy and Dragon, I don't really see many decks playing it. Okay, moving on to the green alts, we have Otama. This is a 1-cost 2k searcher. On play, allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your life and add a land or 1/0 card besides Otama to your hand. Outside of the yellow-green Yamato, no real decks are really playing Lana Wano engine, so probably not going to really see much of it. I'm going to give this a 2-star, mostly because it's a searcher as well as a 2k. If it was just a searcher, I would just give it 1 star, but that's, you know, 2k and a searcher kind of makes it alright, so yeah, I'll give it 2 out of 5. Next up, we have Bonnie. So this is a 5-cost 6k body. On play, up to one of your opponent's characters or Don do not become active during the next refresh stage. This card is very generically good, so you know you can play this basically any deck, any green deck. It's a mini 10-cost Doflamingo, and with how much hype there is around Bonnie, I'm going to put this at a 5-star, just because I think anything Bonnie related, this, at least initially when it first comes out, is definitely going to be chased after. And finally, for the green alts, we have Basil Hawkins. This card is a 6k, 7k body. It gains blocker if your leader is supernova typing, and once per turn, if this card was to be removed from the field by your opponent's effects, you can instead rest one of your opponent's characters. Yeah, 5 stars. Like, its Bonnie support, its ability is just absolutely crazy good. And yeah, the fact that you can't remove it, so Law, Gecko, Lucci, they can't just remove it with its normal abilities, meaning that you have to swing big into it or force your opponent to block is, yeah, this card's a menace, and I can definitely see people raging at this card, so yeah, 5 stars, 100%. Moving on to the blue alts of the set, we're going to start off with Jinbei. This is a 4-cost 5k body, and its effect is on play up to 1 4-cost or less 7 Warlords type card from your hand other than Jinbei. So essentially, if you're playing this card in Doflamingo, you know, use Dofi's effect to play it from the top of your deck rested, then you bring out something else from your hand, so you gain basically double bodies. This card's also played in Boa Hancock, but it, you know, primarily works best in Doflamingo. So, but as I was talking about with Boa Leader, you know, there's probably not too many blue decks that are going to be played in this set. We'll have to wait and see how much representation Doflamingo gets, but as you know, just going off what's happened in Asia, it didn't get too much representation, so I'm going to put this at a 3-star, 3 out of 5. Mostly just because I'm a Dofi fan, but no, but also because, you know, if Dofi does come more represented in the meta, then yeah, this card is going to be a menace. Next up, we have the 1-cost Searcher Sengoku. This allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and add a 7 Warlords type card to your hand. I mean, Dofi's been waiting for the Searcher for some time now. This card will work really well in Boa. And, you know, as I was saying with the Jinbei, we don't know how much representation blue will see in the meta. You know, Dofi is a very popular leader, or at least it was. I think Boa also is going to be a fun, popular leader. How much play in the meta it will see, I am not sure, but I think this card is definitely going to be chased somewhat like Jinbei, so I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Next up, we have Trafalgar Law. This is a 4-cost 4k body, and its ability is Activate Main. You may return this character to its owner's hand. Then, if your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, they have to return 1 card to the bottom of their deck. It's also 2k as well. Yeah, Doflamingo's been waiting for another 2k, so it's going to really help it out. It's also good in bow as well because you can use their ability as well to actually draw another card. It would be kind of cooler if instead of they choose, you could choose it yourself, like, sort of randomness, pick a card from their hand. But yeah, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 just because it's a 2k, Doflamingo's going to be playing it, Bo's going to be playing it, and it's a decent enough ability so you can just, at least also attack with it and then bounce it back to hand. So that's really cool. Yeah, 3 out of 5. Next up, we have Boa Hancock. This is a 6-cost 8k body with ability of on play, up to one of your opponent's characters other than Luffy cannot attack until the end of their next turn, then place up to one cost 1 or less character on the bottom of its owner's deck. So essentially, it's another mini Dofi like Bonnie. It plays into Boa Hancock's lead ability, allowing you to draw 1 when a card is returned using abilities. And yeah, it's overall, I think it's like the previous blue cards, just a 3 out of 5 stars. I think people want it for decks because it's a pretty decent card overall. Mini Dofi is always nice to have in any blue deck, but yeah, I don't think blue's going to see too much. So I think overall, all the blue cards are basically 3 out of 5s. Next as well, speaking of Boa Hancock, we also have the Munga. She is the Munga for this set. She's looking very nice. I mean, Mungas are always chased, so if you get it, congratulations. I'll say this is definitely, I don't think it's a 5-star chase card like, something like the Munga Sabo, but, Mungas are always lovely to get, so if you get it, congratulations. Moving on to the purple alts, we'll start off with Sanji. This is a 6-cost 6k body, that's also a 2k. This card's ability is while you have two or more fewer Don cards than your opponent in your hand, this card costs 3 less. So essentially, instead of being a 6-cost body, it's actually a 3-cost. As well, it's also a blocker. Now, this is just a generically really good purple card, not only the fact that, it's a 2k, but also that with purple, you're always going to probably more likely to not have less Don than your opponent. So meaning it's always going to be basically a 3-cost. As well, looking ahead in set 7, Law is playing this basically at max 4 copies. So because of that, and because of Law, how good it's going to be next set, this is going to be a 5 stars. I'll be chasing this personally myself. But yeah, it's just a really good overall, generically good as well, purple 2k. That's just, yeah, I think for the foreseeable future, this is just going to be a staple purple 2k. Next up, we have Foxy. Foxy is a 7-cost 7k body with ability being opponent's turn. If your leader has a Foxy Pirates type, all your opponent's characters have minus 1000 power. As well, activate main once per turn and up to 1 rested Don from your Don deck. So essentially this card is a mini King leader. For those who don't remember, in OP01, King allowed you, if you had 10 Don on your field, your opponent's characters all had minus 1k. But this, unlike that one, is leader locked because you have to have Foxy as your leader. Fortunately, Foxy is just not a good leader, so it's not really great. Its second ability, being able to add a rested Don every single turn, is pretty awesome, but being a 7k, 7-cost body, it's not like the most impossible thing to get rid of. Law probably, get rid of it fairly easily. Gecko and Lucci can definitely get rid of it pretty easily, so I don't think it's particularly a great card. I'm going to put this at a 1 out of 5 because if it wasn't leader locked with Foxy Pirates, I think it would be a 2, but just because of that and because as well, it's not particularly like a great card. I'm going to put this at 1 out of 5. And finally, for the purple alts, we have Porsche. She is a 3-cost 5k body. She's a searcher for the Foxy Pirates, so minus 1 Don on play. You can look at the top 5 and add a Foxy Pirates card to your hand. But she also has the added ability, you then may play 1 character with a 4k or less to the field, but it does have to be purple. Now, Foxy Pirates, as we've spoken about, isn't particularly great. However, you could potentially play this in Law. So, playing her with Law ability and then bringing out Mr. 2, so that way you re-ramp that Don, and then you have another 5k on the field. But besides that, not really any purple decks are particularly playing her. I'm going to put her at a 2 out of 5 just because I think you could do some interesting stuff with Law. I have seen 1 or 2 decks use her. But yeah, I don't think she's going to be a chase card by any means. So yeah, 2 out of 5. Moving on to the black alts, we're going to start off with Stussy. Stussy is a 9k 9-cost body. On play, you may place up to 1 character into the trash, KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters. Now, this is a card that goes along with the new Lucci leader. Similar to Isho, the SP we were talking about, this card kind of is switched in and out from a lot of Lucci decks. I've seen some Lucci decks play 1 to 2 of them. I've seen some play absolutely no copies of it. It's definitely a really awesome card because it means you can get basically rid of anything on the field. But the fact that you also have to trash a character is kind of not the best because you have to trash one of your own. So if you don't have, like, say, a Spandam on the field, so you can't trash a low body, it's a bit much. So yeah, I think overall this card will be chased, but I think it's just going to be depending on what people do as experimentation of Lucci. I haven't really seen any other deck play this card, so I think it's primarily a Lucci card. Based on everything, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. Purely from the fact that it's not really a consistent card that we see in Lucci, and since Lucci is the only deck that I have seen play it, I don't think it's going to be a really chase card, unless some new crazy play comes out for Lucci, but looking at the later deck list for OP07, I doubt this, so 2 out of 5. And finally, for the black alts, we have Sabo. This is one of the secrets of the set. It is an 8-cost 9k body with the effect of, on play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's 5-cost or less characters, and up to one of their 3-cost or less characters. Essentially, this is a big version of the 4-cost Lucci. This is one of the few cards in Lucci that I've seen consistently being played. So, as I was saying with how Lucci seems to be switching out big bodies, so between Isho and Stussy, this card has also been played as well, but I've seen it more consistently played across Lucci builds. I haven't actually seen this been played in something like Gecko, but you definitely could use it in that. But yeah, I think this card, it's also just generically pretty good. It's a secret as well, so I'm going to be putting this at a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if it'll be really chase this for the set, but I really think it depends on experimentation. But moving forward to next set onwards, set 8 onwards, I think it's just a generically good card, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of those cards that people want to chase down, especially when we see our next secret as well. And with saying that, let's move on to our yellow ult. So we'll start off with the other secret of the set, which is the Ace. This is the yellow secret. It is a 10k 10-cost body, and its effect is, on play, you may add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. Then, if you have 2 or less cards in your life, this card gains Rush. So, as you can see from the art, it goes with the actual Sabo. Also, this is just basically a generic 10-cost big mom for every single yellow deck. It's not leader locked. It's also one of the reasons that Nell is doing so well in set 7. This card is just so good. It's a free Yamato, and yeah, I think this is a 5-star card. I think everyone is going to be chasing this who's playing yellow. I myself will be wanting to get this card as soon as I can. So yeah, definitely keep your eye out for this one. This is going to be seen definitely a lot in set 7, especially if you're versing a yellow deck. They are going to be playing this, and I think this is going to be a new staple yellow card going forward into the future. So yeah, 5 stars, 100%. Next, we have Frankie. This is a 4-cost 5k body that's also a 2k, and it has a trigger effect of draw 1 card, then if you have 1 or less life, play this card. Yeah, this is going to be another 5-star card. I think just, it's a really generically good yellow card. It's a 2k as well. It's similar to Satori in a way, but essentially if you have it at the right time, you can play it for free without having to trash a card from your hand. Every yellow deck, especially Anel and Katakuri next set, are going to be playing this, so I think everyone's going to be chasing it. So I'm going to put this at 5 stars as well, just because, yeah, it's a card that everyone wants, and again, just like this Ace, it's just a generically good yellow card. So yeah, 5 stars, I'm putting that one at. Next up, we have the new Luffy. This is a 5-cost 6k body. Its ability is Activate May. You may place this character in your trash. If your life is 2 or less, KO up to one of your opponent's characters at a cost of 4 or less, then draw 1 card. Also has a trigger of KO up to one of your opponent's characters at a cost of 4 or less. Now, this is an egghead card, so you'd presumably play this in the Vegapunk leader, but as we've already talked about, Vegapunk is not a good leader. However, the black-yellow Luffy from starter deck 13 is definitely going to be playing this card. From all the deck lists that I've seen, it seems to be being played at least a 3 of. Yeah, it's just a really good card. The fact that you can trash it and then just recycle it again with Luffy leader's ability is definitely going to make this a chase card. I'm going to put this at 5 stars just because looking at next set, black-yellow Luffy is still heavily played. And yeah, I definitely think a lot of those players are going to be chasing it. And the final yellow ult that we'll look at, as well as the final ult of the set, is Lilith. She is a free cost 5k body that is a searcher. So on play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and add one egghead type card other than Lilith to your hand, and then place the rest of the bottom of your deck. She also has the trigger, if your league is Vegapunk, play this card. Now, as we've already talked about, Vegapunk is just not a particularly great leader. Yes, we do get more support in set 8 for Vegapunk, but I just don't know if that'll be really enough to be worth playing him as a leader. I think he might be a fun leader, but overall, just not really worth chasing. As well, Lilith, I just think the fact that she also has no counter is not particularly great. So because of that, I'm going to be putting it at a 1 out of 5. If you can get it for cheap, and we can see what, we'll have to wait and see what, set 8 does with Vegapunk type, but I just don't think this card is particularly great, and I don't think you really should bother chasing it. So I'm going to put it at a 1 out of 5. And that is it for the ults of OP07. A lot of cool ults coming out, a lot of cool just cards in general coming. Out of all of them, I believe that these 6 will be the main ults that will be chased. The Sanji just for lore, the Bonnie and Hawkins for the Bonnie leader, Luffy for Black Hero Luffy, and then the Frankie and Ace, mostly for Nell, but also it's just really good generic support that can work in more or less any yellow deck. For the leaders, I believe that Lucci and Bonnie will be the main 2. More so Lucci, only just because obviously we're getting the Sucker ban, Reject is getting banned, as well as Great Eruption. And looking at over what happened in Asia, Lucci became a lot more represented than Bonnie, so I think Lucci will definitely be the main one. And then out of the SPs, I think Kid and Onami will be the main 2 chase ones for Lore and Enel. And yeah, no, I'm really keen for the set. I think there's a lot of awesome cards coming out. I think it'll be a very interesting meta, just because looking over and what happened in Asia, it wasn't specifically like, oh, Lore was the best deck, Enel was the best deck, Lucci was the best deck. Like, a lot of different decks were kind of popping. So I think it should be very interesting. Lore and Enel, I do think probably the 2 favorites, but I still think there should be a lot of interesting matches and a lot of interesting outcomes. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you like, this sort of content, maybe I'll do something else when the next set comes out. But yeah, thanks for watching. It's been Christoph from the Card Boys.